Hello everybody and welcome to Discussing Dead. So Discussing Dead is a new series I am now launching on this channel. This is going to be the season premiere, if you will, of Discussing Dead. And what this is going to be is a Walking Dead discussion after show, where after each episode of The Walking Dead we receive, I'm going to be doing one of these videos on camera talking about The Walking Dead. I've created a little bit of a different set than normal. As you see, I've got some Walking Dead Funkos behind me. I wanted to create a bit more of a different environment for this type of video. I made a video, a review on The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 5, when that aired, which was, of course, Rick Grimes' final episode. And you guys seem to really enjoy that, and you seem to really like that video. So with that being said, I wanted to launch this new series. So this is my review for The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 8, which is the mid-season finale, otherwise entitled Evolution. And I will be continuing this series on come the mid-season premiere in February, and I'll continue that on for the rest of Season 9. So I hope you guys enjoy, and with all that said, let's jump into the review. So we kind of had three main storylines going on in this episode, and we had three different things going on, but before we dive into all of that, there were like a few other minor things going on, like especially to do with Michonne. Obviously, after the 6-year time jump, we've had quite a lot to uncover and quite a lot to discover about what's happened between Alexandria and the Hilltop. And seeing Michonne actually go to the Hilltop, we saw she was very conflicted about that, and seeing how she actually was interacting with the people, you know, seeing her with Tara was very, very interesting. We saw that Tara doesn't have a lot of love for Michonne. Obviously, we don't quite know why that is yet, and we will find out more and more. Based on the trailer we got for the rest of the season, like the next few episodes, it appears we're going to be getting a flashback episode for Michonne, which I assume is going to be within that 6-year time jump and should show us and fill in the gaps a little bit. But between her and Tara, not a lot of love there. And even between like Michonne and Carol, like it was nice to see them together again. And, you know, especially because they're meant to be like a family, and, you know, it seems like Carol was fine with Michonne. She didn't have a problem with her, especially in comparison to Tara, who, like I say, not a lot of love going on there. But it was nice to see Michonne trying to reconnect with the Hilltop, although she was a little bit, you know, frustrated about the entire thing. It was quite nice to see how they were all kind of going about it, and it was nice to see the different perspectives as well. Like I say, Tara was on the complete one end of the spectrum, Carol on the other, and I like that. Also, I think the actress who played Rosita was absolutely incredible in this episode. Obviously, seeing her last episode when she was just freaking out of her mind about the Whisperers, seeing her in this episode back at Hilltop was really fun, because she was literally with Sadiq and with Michonne absolutely freaking out. You know, she was so worried about what happened to Eugene, what was going on with there, and what she just experienced with these new walkers, these evolved walkers that she had just experienced. Very different, and again, it really showed how scared Rosita was, which Rosita's, you know, pretty hard-faced, she's pretty strong, she's very brave, but you really saw how scary these Whisperers are, and I want to get onto that later on, but you really got to see very early on how scary they were due to how they purely just affected Rosita mentally. And we also saw Magda's group of Fine arrive at the Hilltop, and I quite like this idea of the New Beginning characters kind of moving into the Hilltop. We saw that they're trying to earn their keep, and that comes back at the end of the episode as well. Seeing how Magda's kind of interacting with all those girls. Magda is a bit of an interesting character this season. She is not quite the, you know, the gung-ho hero type. She's a bit more restrained. She's a bit more of an attitude to her in comparison to some of the other members. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see where they go with these characters and how they interact with the Hilltop, how Tara will take to them, especially because Tara is now leader of the Hilltop, so I want to see how that's going to play into it as well. Very, very interesting, and I enjoyed all that as well, and I think these New Beginning characters, I'm really enjoying them personally. I really like them, especially Magda and Yumiko. I think they're great, and I can't wait to see, especially because I imagine Magda's going to have quite a life on this series, and I'm happy about that. I can't wait to see where she goes and develops, and along with Yumiko as well, I hope she survives, because I think, you know, The Walking Dead, it's always needed a badass archer, and we've finally now got one, so let's not kill her off. So now moving into those three main storylines, like I mentioned, we have the storyline with Henry, who, obviously Henry is taking up a lot of Carl's storylines from the comics. Obviously Carl now dead in the show. Henry appears to be taking up a lot of those storylines. So Henry actually goes to Hilltop as well to actually learn the trade. So he's moving from Kingdom to Hilltop to actually learn the trade of the blacksmith. He's going to be an apprentice at the blacksmith. And I thought this was cool. This does make him useful. I have to say, Henry has actually really impressed me this season. I was expecting him to come off as incredibly annoying, but he doesn't. He actually is quite mature in his ways, how he goes about things, and I was very happy about that, because I was very, very worried. Just because of that type of character, sometimes that can be incredibly risky, but I actually think the actor is doing a great job with that. Now, he actually meets up with these three other younger kids who are also at the Hilltop, and they kind of get him into a bit of trouble, you know, them sort of teasing the walkers, getting him drunk, things like that. And with that, he's found basically in a hole and is found by Tara, and he is sent into one of the prison cells at the Hilltop. to basically atone for his punishment. Now, this was all very good, and like I say, I think that Henry and the actor who plays him does a great job. My only complaint with all this is that I found the whole teen adolescence, teen drama storyline from this that naturally comes with this kind of thing was a bit cringy and a bit annoying. It's not too bad, like it's not Riverdale bad, like it's still got like a bit of like ring of truth to it. But in a show like The Walking Dead, I really don't need stuff like that. So I can look past it because it wasn't as bad as some other things I've seen. But it was just like, if I had to pick a negative with it, if I had to put a gripe with it, it'd be that. I just feel like some of the characters, some of the words, the dialogue, it was a bit, too in your face, and I didn't really enjoy all that. But what really excites me is where this ends up. Obviously, Henry in a cell, and again, taking up Carl's storyline, that means he's going to end up in that cell next to Lydia. Obviously, Lydia from the comics. I'm very, very excited about that. I can't wait to see where that goes. Obviously, I'll get to how they'll get to Lydia in a little bit. But knowing that this is how we're going to get to that has me very excited as a Walking Dead fan. And then we have the storyline with Negan in this episode. Jeffrey D. Morgan is fantastic in this episode. Absolutely brilliant. This is the best we've seen him in a while. I mean, I commented in my review about how good he was in episode 5. But in this episode, he was great. His scenes with Gabriel were really interesting. I loved Seth Gillam's performance as well as Gabriel. I thought he was fantastic. The way he is basically going to these like therapy sessions with Negan, trying to get beneath the surface of this man, trying to find out who he is. And I really love the dialogue here. The way he's just like, you're coming in here, cleaning up my shit and things like that. And I thought that was really good. And the way Gabriel just got so frustrated with the whole thing. He's like, I've been coming to these sessions every single week, trying to find a man beneath all of this, and I just can't. Like, someone I can help, and I can't. His frustration with that, and obviously mixing that with the idea that Rosita was out there, she was away, and then she got hurt under his orders. Obviously, Gabriel and Rosita have a bit of a romance going on at the moment, so it was like a really good moment, because Gabriel as a character is someone I've always been a bit off and on with The Walking Dead. But I really like what they're doing with him this season, especially with Rosita, and especially in this episode, like his therapy sessions with Negan, and the way he got so frustrated about the whole thing and so irate about the whole thing. It was very realistic in that sense, and I think it worked really well for him. And also the way that Negan was almost kind of apologetic about the whole thing, I actually thought was really an interesting character turn, especially because Negan, like this is the first time this season we've seen Negan where he reminded me of like how he was in season 7, season 8, where he's very sarcastic, the typical kind of Negan that you'd know. He kind of is the closest to that in this episode, whereas in the rest of the season, he's kind of been a lot more sympathetic. I mean, you do get hints of that, but like I say, he's a lot more like his typical self in this episode, which I enjoyed. And obviously, this all leads to a great moment where you find out the gate to the cell was left open, and Negan gets out. So Negan is now a free man. He's now escaped. I knew this was coming. I love the way they did it as well. I love the way they did it, the way, because I was waiting for this moment. I was really hoping it was going to happen in the mid-season finale. And, the way they kind of build it up, you hear the wind and then, the tennis ball that Negan's been throwing the entire episode, it goes through the gate. And he just notices the wind is just moving the door a little bit, and he walks up to it really slowly, pushes it, and it opens. Really good way of doing it. And obviously, if you've seen the trailer for the kind of next couple of episodes of The Walking Dead, you'll see that Negan actually returns to the sanctuary. I think that's really fun, and obviously this is going to potentially lead to his meeting with Beta, played by Ryan Hurst. This is great stuff. I love the fact that Negan's escaped. I think this is going to do so much for The Walking Dead. I think it's going to be a real scare for our heroes, for the survivors. I think they're going to be like, Jesus Christ, he's escaped. The monster has been let out of his cage, and I feel like Gabriel is not going to let this one down. Gabriel is going to be under fire by all of Alexandria for this, and I think this is a great character turn for that as well. I just love this. I love the fact that Negan's escaped because, Negan has had a really interesting role this season and has had a really interesting role in the history of The Walking Dead. This is something different, and I'm definitely interested to see, will he align himself with the Whisperers, or will he kind of come back to Alexandria to help fight the Whisperers? I think there's so much opportunity here, and I'm loving it. Now, speaking of the Whisperers, that is our third storyline for this episode. And wow, I mean, obviously we've been waiting for the Whisperers. We knew they were coming. We've had hints of them over the past couple of episodes. We had a couple of whispers, a couple of teasers about them. Seeing them coming into fruition here was fantastic. Obviously, you had Daryl, Aaron, and Jesus going out to find Eugene, who is left in the barn. And once they actually find him, again, just like Rosita, you see how Eugene is so terrified of these new walkers. And I love the mindset. I love the mindset because they're just like, they don't know about the Whisperers yet. They don't know what's going on at this point. And they're just like, they're talking. the way they're moving, they're tactical, they're different. These walkers are different. The walkers are evolving. I thought that was really great, and I love the way they have that discussion about it, and Aaron's like, that's impossible, they can't do that, that's just not the way it's going to work, and Jesus is like, well, they shouldn't be alive anyway. Like, the fact that the dead have been risen doesn't make sense. So, them evolving is not far out of possibility. I thought that was a really great discussion, and the way that Eugene even explains it, I think was really interesting. The way he's kind of like backwards evolution, I thought that was great. Just the way they handled it, all, the way they were intriguing this information, were like, yeah, this could actually happen, this is quite weird. Walkers are talking, they're communicating. I love that. And the way it kind of just evolved into this scene where they're just trying to escape from the walkers, and no matter what they do, no matter what distractions they throw, Daryl throws the alarm clock and things like that, no matter what they do, they cannot get rid of this walker herd that's following them around. They cannot get rid of it, and that's when they know something's up here, something's wrong. And I think that was really interesting, and this all culminates in this final scene where they're all trapped in there together in this graveyard. Eugene and Aaron are trying to escape, and we have Jesus doing this incredible fight scene. I loved all this, seeing Jesus just fight these guys, the way that he obviously uses his incredible martial arts skills. Jesus is one of the best fighters in the Hilltop. He's one of the best fighters on the show, maybe even the best fighter on the show. He's kind of the leader of the militia for the Hilltop, so it kind of makes sense in that way. But he was really cool to just see this action sequence where he's jumping from one walker to another, just slicing them up, was great. They don't quite define which are Whisperers and which are not at this point, so you have to assume he killed a fair few Whisperers there. But then we get the incredible reveal where obviously a typical walker would just, stumble towards them and just like bite them like that. But, with this Whisperer, he literally comes up behind and grabs him around the neck and stabs him. And it was just like, holy, like I sat up in my chair and I was just like, oh my good God. And Jesus dies. We lose Jesus in this episode. Now, I think this death would have had a lot more impact if I didn't know about it, because personally, I found out about this death a few weeks ago. It was leaked, and although it wasn't confirmed, I kind of knew it was coming. And so yeah, I think this is a great death, though. I have to say, I think this is one of the better deaths The Walking Dead's done recently. I think it's really, an impactful one, and definitely a good one. It's just like I say, for me personally, the impact wasn't quite there because I kind of knew it was coming, which was a shame, but I don't let that take away from, I'm not saying that as a negative. I think this was a great death, and it was so impactful. I love Aaron's reaction to it. I love the way he was so distraught by it, especially because I feel like if they would have kept Jesus on the show, I have a feeling that Aaron and Jesus may have become a couple like they are in the comics. I think they may have done that. So maybe, and I feel like in this episode there are a couple of scenes that hint towards Aaron and Jesus maybe having feelings, especially Aaron to Jesus. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else caught that, but I kind of got that vibe. So I feel like that was a really natural reaction from him. But it's definitely sad to see Jesus go. I don't really want him to leave. I never wanted him to. I think Tom Payne's awesome, and I'd love to see him carry on. But, I think out of the characters we had there, out of Aaron, Daryl, Jesus, and Eugene, I think Jesus was probably the best option to die, especially because they haven't really done anything with Jesus over the past couple of seasons. Even though he just technically became the leader of the Hilltop, I think it's a lot more appropriate to give that to Tara, and I'm excited to see what they do with Tara, because I also feel like Tara is a bit of a wasted character on the show, because I love the actress who plays her, and I feel like she deserves a lot more. So with that, we're going to see that evolve as well, and I like that too. So I'm sad to see Jesus go, but he did go out in a great way. He had a great death, and it really proved how powerful the Whisperers are. Now, speaking of the Whisperers, they were terrifying in this episode. I haven't felt this much fear watching The Walking Dead in a very long time. These guys are freaky. They kind of just come out, they mix in with the walker herds, the crowds, they mix in with them. Obviously, they dress up like walkers, the way they look, in terms of if you took a Whisperer and you took a walker, you couldn't tell the difference side by side. They just look, absolutely terrifying. And the way that, they just kind of, because they move like walkers as well, but then as soon as it's time for them to strike, like the one that killed Jesus, they just act like a human, wrap around the neck, stab in the back. And it was like, Jesus Christ. Like, this was like a really intense thing. And I loved the Whisperers. I'm so excited to see what they do. I think this may be one of the best villains we've ever had in The Walking Dead, is the Whisperers. I can't wait to see Alpha. I can't wait to see Beta. Can't wait to see Lydia. I think there's so much potential here with like a really awesome storyline. We could get a really awesome couple of seasons with the Whisperers that I think could really deliver. And I think the Whisperers, I think the best thing about this episode was the horror vibe. They really built up the horror in this episode and really built up the suspense and the build-up. Like, the build-up to the Whisperers was so well done. Like, the pacing was great. I think that we were really able to feel the tension, especially because they were really trying to escape from this walker herd that, just was not losing them due to the Whisperers. And I thought this was really intense, the way it built up and the way it finally culminated with Jesus' death. Really, really sad stuff. And obviously the way that now we had like Magna's group who come in to help, Michonne comes in to try and help, and we get the unmasking of the Whisperer, which was really interesting. I kind of wish that was Lydia in that moment, because it makes a lot more sense for them to... I still think they will kidnap Lydia. I think, you know, come the mid-season premiere, we'll see them all fighting in that scene, and they'll kidnap one of them, and it'll be Lydia, and then we'll get the Henry and Lydia thing. I think that's how that will happen, but I really liked just seeing, you know, them unmasking the Whisperer, and even Daryl's face was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is mental. This is just something we've not come, like, this is another different level. Like, what even is this? And I love that, like, because Norman Reedus, again, I like Norman Reedus a lot, but like, he doesn't really have as much range as Daryl. Like, every time he gets to show a real emotion, it's a real treat. Like in When Rick Died and things like that, he really gets to show like a lot of emotion, and he did that here, like just pure confusion and fear about what's going on. And that's the word I describe this episode, is fearful. This episode was terrifying in so many different ways. It was suspenseful, it was scary, and I've not felt that in The Walking Dead for a very long time. And for that and that alone, I think this is a fantastic episode of The Walking Dead. Brilliant mid-season finale. It's got me so excited for the mid-season premiere. I think season 9 has been a storm. It's just been fantastic, and I can't wait to see where they go next. So thank you for watching this first episode of Discussing Dead. If you guys like this series, make sure you let me know in the comments. Would you guys like to see more of this? Would you like to see it continue? I love talking about The Walking Dead, so I'm definitely happy to keep this series going come the mid-season premiere in February. So make sure you let me know your thoughts, and do you want to see more of Discussing Dead? Make sure you let me know. And with all that said, I hope to see you guys again in my next video.